Hi, my name is Dieffenbachia and I'm the author of Toxic Health. And we're here today to look into lighting products. And I've had 3 lighting products on test in my home for a duration of just over 2 weeks. And the test actually ran for about a month because of some very interesting symptoms that appeared in my body. So in the background we can see that we have a sodium street light right here. We have an LED light bulb right here, and we have a compact fluorescent right here. And the combination of these 3 lighting products running for 12 hours a day during my home, during the plant experiment, actually made me quite sick. And that sickness showed up as like headaches and fatigue and just being very lethargic with no energy. And most people would describe that as depression. And the longer the experiment went on, the sicker I got. So I eventually stopped the experiment because I was getting so sick. And then within a day I started going through withdrawal. And that withdrawal was basically random body pains, head pains, and a very long headache that lasted for about 3 days. That didn't respond to any medication. So it was very unpleasant. And during the experiment I also developed insomnia. So that eventually cleared up. It took about a month to actually clear up from the start of the experiment to actually finishing the withdrawal symptoms. And that's now gone. So I'm going to show you what's going on with the electrical system when these products are plugged into it, because these products generate what's known as electrical system harmonics. And that does some very, very strange stuff to both the grounding system and also the cabling in your home. So I'm going to switch on the lights and let's see what happens to the oscilloscope. So we look at the oscilloscope. In yellow we actually have the voltage waveform, which is sinusoidal, and in red we have the current waveform. And as you can see, the current and the voltage are out of phase, which is quite normal for inductive load, which is what the street light is. And there's also a kink, and you can see that kink is right here and there. And I'm going to expand out the time base so we can see that kink a little bit better. So you can see it's right there. And that's the lamp switching off. And we're on a 60 Hertz American system. So that lamp switching on and off is basically switching off every half a cycle. So we have the lamp, the street lamp is actually switching on and off 120 times a second. And I'm going to cover up these lights because the light is quite toxic that comes out of some of these lights. And we don't want to get exposed to that for very long. Otherwise we may develop insomnia. So our street light has somewhat warmed up. And we can see that it's a very distorted waveform. And I'm going to switch on a function which is known as the fast Fourier transform function. And we can look at the frequency content of that waveform. So there's our frequency content, and this very big spike over on the left is the 60 Hertz mains frequency. And everything else is a harmonic of that frequency. And we can see that there's general background noise on the system. And that's pretty typical of what electrical and electronic products do to the system. They increase the general overall noise of the electrical system, and they put these harmonics on the system. So let's expand that out. And this scale that we're currently on is 500 Hertz per division, going this way. And we have 20 decibels going in the vertical direction. So I'm going to drop it down to 50 Hertz per division. And we can see the 60 Hertz fundamental frequency, and we see the harmonics going off with time. And the interesting thing is, these are the odd harmonics. The utility system generally filters out the even harmonics. But you can see that we've got some other harmonics coming in down here, and they're repeating quite regular. So let's expand that out by going up to 10 kilohertz per division. So we can see that we have a lot of flickering on the baseline, and that's just general electrical noise on the system. And we're now on 1 megahertz per division. So all the interesting stuff is actually way, way down. And it's actually all centered around here, so around 500 Hertz per division. And we can see that there's a lot of harmonics on the system with these three lighting products. And you've got to be very careful about harmonics because they do very strange things. They increase the fields dramatically on all the cables that the current flows through. And they can put radio waves on the system. And you may actually find that your electrical system gets quite toxic. And then all of this stuff then comes in through your grounding system because in America, your grounding system is actually the utility neutral connection. So the utilities have actually combined the earth and ground and the neutral cable into one. So there's only a live and a neutral coming to your house. In America, they bring in two lives and they bring in a neutral. So they don't bring in an earth connection or a ground connection as they call it in America. And because of that, you end up with some very, very strange stuff going on your grounding system. If you want to find out more about this is called stray voltage when it gets onto your grounding system. And stray voltage is pretty nasty because what you find happening is wherever your ground rods are, you'll find a very strange set of frequencies around your ground rod. And you'll also find some very strange voltages, particularly when the load is very high on the system. Because you generally find the stray voltage effect peaks with the peak load. So it follows the load up and down on the system. And certainly in my area, the summertime load of air conditioning is the highest load on the system. So I get the worst effects at my home during summertime for that reason. And you'll find that from your ground rods that extending out for quite some distance, and we're talking tens of feet, in some cases hundreds of feet, that the ground is electrified. And it's a very low voltage, it's called stray voltage. It can be a few volts. It tails off with distance, but the problem with it is if it has frequencies on it, the ground will actually be radiating frequencies up from the ground, and it can make you quite sick. Even being insulated from it can make you sick if it's giving off radio frequencies. And if you're walking around in bare feet, you should expect to get sick around stray voltage because you're connecting directly into the electrical system through your feet by being in contact with the electrified ground. So this is something to be aware of. These harmonics, once they get onto the system, they go everywhere. So wherever there is an AC voltage, you'll find these frequencies going through the system. So it's a pretty toxic effect of the electrical system. And I'm really not surprised based on what I saw with my health during the period of time that this experiment ran, I'm really not surprised to see so many harmonics on the system. So there you have it. That's what the harmonics that were generated with this experiment. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and I wish you the very best of health. Thank you.